Hey guys, welcome back to Vertical Momentum. I'm your host, Richard Kaufman, also known as the Comeback Coach. Guys, if you need to work on your soft skills, this is the episode for you. We're going to be talking about empathy. We're going to be talking about how to actually talk to people, especially if you have a staff. Nowadays, your soft skills might be a little bit more important than your hard skills. So, this is going to be an awesome episode. I got to give a big shout out first before I get started. Celsius Energy, thank you so much for keeping me up and energized. I want to say thank you, Celsius. I love you guys. So, Mel, welcome to the show. How are you today?
I'm pretty good down here in Brisbane, Queensland, Australia.
So my first question right out of the gate, easy question. What is your definition of resiliency?
That's an interesting one. I used to think it was your ability to bounce back and your mindset from challenges and how you see life, how you respond and interact with all of the things that become our life's existence. I've kind of shifted. I went through cancer a few years ago during COVID years, actually. And now I kind of shifted a little is it's actually kind of more in how do we approach things versus the bounce back. So I'm actually kind of thinking I was able to deal with that because of how, I guess, emotionally stable I am within myself. And so therefore the resilience is it's more like it's a preparation than a bounce back. Maybe a bit different.
Okay, but now since coming back from cancer, do you feel that resiliency is your superpower? Because if you can come back from that, you can pretty much come back from anything. So do you
Yeah.
feel that that's your superpower?
Look, I think my superpowers is to see the good and feel the good in everything. Now, that doesn't make that easy. In fact, I had a bit of a midlife meltdown in May, which was a whole thing. Just questioning the existence. What is the purpose of all of this humanity thing? It's so hard. It can be damn cruel. And that was from somebody else losing their cancer journey. And that hit me harder than my own. So I don't know. I'm maybe the wrong person to ask about these things now. I kind of see life as a gift, and everything that we experience, I think, happens for us.
I love it, and that's something I think we both agree on. My mentor, Mr. Ed Milet, says, you know, everything happens for us. It doesn't happen to us, and everything is a teachable moment. So I think we agree on that. So give us a quick down and dirty. Where did you come from? Where did you grow up? And how did you become a speaker? How did you become a coach? How did you get in this crazy world of coaching?
I love that. A big question. So I'll you dive into whatever detail catches your attention. So I was born and raised in Scotland by English parents. Not the greatest upbringing. I had a rather what's the polite way of putting it? A stepfather who wasn't very nice to me. We'll just stop there. And I left home at 15. So if resilience is a learned thing, then geez, I started young is all I can say. But even then, it was always an opportunity. I think I was born with adventure in my blood, so I didn't see anything as a problem in life. So I don't know why some of us are born that way. Maybe I'm a crazy weird. I don't know. But from there, I fell in love at 25 and I immigrated to Australia. And I've been out here 24 years, I think it is, if the maths add up. So I'm pushing on the late 40s side into my 50s, and I'm coming to terms with that. And I've been in the coaching self-development world, if you will, I'm about to tick into my 10th year, 9 full years now.
So what I know what got me into self development, and I'm old. I'm 50. I'll be 50. I'm 56. Um, but I remember when I was younger having these old tapes
Mm-hmm.
by Tony Robbins called "Awaken the
Mm-hmm.
Giant Within." Um, and just about 5 years ago, I found Audible, and I got the Audible version, and I listened to it, and I got back into self development. So, can you take us back to how you got into the self development world?
I started reading. So I was in my unhappy school years, that cliche of hiding in the library and hiding at home in my room reading. So I was an avid devourer of content. So I was reading I didn't know what it was then. And I got into spirituality. I would read books about angel and all sorts of different stuff. And so I didn't realize it was personal development. Um, and then when I was in my 20s, I too came across this huge guy on TV who was selling these cassette sets. So I bought the Tony Robbins sets, and I think that probably was the start of it. And it became, I think, just gently was part of my life without, being uh, immersed in it. And it wasn't until I became unemployed 10 years ago that I kind of realized I was actually a natural coach. And so I fell into it versus choosing, if that makes sense. And I think that's fairly common for people in the self-development world. We just come across something going, actually, I'm learning more about myself, and this is a good thing. My identity is more than what I thought it was when I was in the corporate world.
And I realize that most CEOs or high level CEOs or personal development people, they're big readers, and I
Mm.
believe that readers are leaders, and learners are earners. So, how important is has reading been in your life, and do you really suggest, especially now more days, because we have the attention span of a gnat, about picking up books, reading them, or even using audiobooks to learn?
Yeah, I've got a Kindle and 3 books on the go. So I'm still reading. Um, I have problems getting to sleep now post chemo, and reading is one of those things that actually helps my mind unwind. And what better way to do 2 things at once, to help myself relax and learn and integrate stuff. And I also love podcasts. I'm always got something, one of the many podcast shows in my ears as I'm walking or driving. So yeah, I'm a big consumer of information because I don't know. There's a lot I don't know. So
So now, I talk to a lot of people. Like when I first started coaching people, I suffered with imposter syndrome. I'm like, who am I to be coaching anybody? Why should I be coaching somebody? Who are you? Because a lot of times, if you don't have any clients, it's hard to say I'm a coach, but you can't be a coach until you have a client. So talk to us about, if you did, you might not have, if you had to overcome any imposter syndrome starting your coaching business.
oh, for sure. Um, I had an interesting journey. So I'm now like in the energy space, like an energy healer, that subconscious stuff. And that's where my imposter syndrome kicked in. It took me 4 years before I understood that this actually was one of my gifts. And you talk about superpower earlier. I really resisted. Who am I? I've been in therapy because of my crappy upbringing. Who am I to serve and help someone else? I think I'm still messed up. So the imposter syndrome for sure was a big part. And then I think maybe it's the resiliency piece that the more you do it and the more feedback you get, external validation is necessary, although I don't live off it. And it's just become something that actually I believe in myself, partly because I've heard what other people have said that it has helped change their life, whatever their impact is. And standing by a guarantee I have, I've had it for ooh, probably 8 of the 9 years. And that is, if you're not satisfied, I will give you all of your money back. That's just an integrity. I thought it was integrity. But I think it builds up the confidence of saying, well, I'm not for everyone. I've never had to give anyone all of their money back, but I have stopped client contracts or agreements. And I think having the confidence to do that then helps defeat the imposter syndrome. I'm doing good work, and um, I think imposter syndrome is a biggest part of our subconscious. And once you start to just kick that out to the curb, no, that's not true. That's a fear, or that's a false belief or an axiom. That's not the reality. That's not the truth. And the more you're able to just stop that and shut that down, I think the imposter syndrome kind of dissipates, or it has for me anyway.
I love that. Now, also, I love when Tony Robbins talked about how he went to go take a course on NLP, and after a week, he started coaching people, and the coach said, "You can't coach people," and he's like, "Why not? I don't need to be certified." And I think a lot of people, they're so worried about getting certifications for coaching, so they never do anything. They sit on the sidelines and they never do anything. I personally don't think a coach has to be certified. It might help. It might help a little bit to have a couple letters behind your name, but I don't think every coach needs to be certified. What are your thoughts?
I have many, many thoughts. I think it can help again with that external validation. I certainly chased them in my early days. I've got the certificates on the wall that tells me I'm certified with a couple of things. Not NLP, that didn't align with me. Um, I think it can help your own confidence. And as I was just, backing on to what I just shared, was then as you grow into confidence, um, you stop chasing the need for the extra certificate. But that procrastination, that avoidance, that perfectionism can kick in, and that doubt of, well, maybe I'm still not ready. Maybe I need the next thing. And I have come across people who do that. And I've also come across coaches, therapists, healers who've quit because the overwhelm, where they were taking on too much of their clients' trauma, problems, it was triggering themselves. That's when I think maybe some sort of more structured course or program to help them manage that would be of benefit, because I've never felt overwhelmed. I've never, yes, I get deeply involved and concerned, but I don't get overwhelmed. I do not take on my clients' problems. There has to be a way of protecting ourselves, especially as empaths. And I think that sometimes can be something that people can benefit from, of learning how to do that. But I didn't actually need to do that myself.
Okay, so now looking from a thousand foot view, I know what I believe a good coach is. I have my own opinions. There's so many coaches out there, so I have my opinion on what a good coach is and what a good coach isn't. In your opinion, what is a good coach?
I have this view is the client must leave better than the way they arrived.
Yeah.
That to me is just, you should not be charging money for that session if that is not the case. Um, I think a good coach is somebody who is continually evolving themselves, or rather, that's what I look for and value. Um, and I think if they've walked the path, I think there's a bit more credibility in that particular area. I think if you are claiming some sort of expertise that hasn't been in that world or that sphere in some way. So if I look at the coach to athletes, they don't need to have won the gold medal in order to coach somebody else to win the gold, but they certainly need to have done something in that sphere in order to be able to understand the challenges, understand the complexities and the nuances of whatever the field is that they're coaching in.
So what you're saying is I can't be an 18-year-old with abs saying I'm a life coach when
I
I
didn't
haven't
say that.
when I
No,
when I haven't experienced life yet.
no, I would suggest that 18-year-old would be great to work with other 18-year-olds or young people. So I think it's about finding that area of um, your expertise can come anywhere in life, and it's being able to relate comprehensively in the field that you've chosen to coach in.
Well, one thing I like that you said is that you're not for everybody. I'm not for everybody. I may not be somebody's gym, and that's okay. And some people you can't afford me, and that's okay too.
Mm-hmm.
But because I think sometimes some people try to be everything to everybody, and like Jim Rohn said, if you're marketing to everybody, you're marketing to nobody. So talk about that, especially when you're first starting out coaching, how you don't have to take on every single client as soon as you start. Because I think
Well,
that's a quick way to burn out.
I guess there's two avenues there. Is if you're trying to get some confidence and experience under your belt, then yes, of course, you're going to take the opportunities as they arise. Again, for me, the number one value for myself is congruence. So I will not claim, for example, to be a multi-million dollar business coach because I haven't achieved that for myself. So I would not do something that I cannot congruently talk to or support in. And I always do my due diligence when I'm hiring my coaches. Well, what is their successes in the area that they're claiming they can help me with? And then I've forgotten the second part of the question.
Well, I just try to figure out is you can't have everybody as a client, because sometimes I figured out I get more problems out of $100 client than I will out of a $10,000 client. The $10,000 client will be like, tell me what I need to do. Let's do it. Here's the check. And let's move on. The $100 client, I feel like I have to babysit more because they don't. I feel that they don't have enough skin in the game.
Sorry. Yes. Now I recall your second part was not being for everyone. A personality, you have to have rapport with the person that you are working with. Really, on when I use the word intimate, I mean like on a deeply personal level. Whatever your vulnerability that you're coming to somebody with, if you can't trust and have rapport with them, you're already got problems. It's like hiring a lawyer that you don't like. You've got to have respect for them even if you don't like them. You've got to be able to connect on a level that is going to move you from where you're stuck into where you want to be. And you can't have that if you don't get on with the person. So no, we're not going to, the population, there would be riots if we're all trying to marry, date, hire the same people. Like there just wouldn't be enough. It just wouldn't work. So we're not for everyone. And finding space and grace for yourself to recognize and let go and set free or point in a different direction that serves both of you in the best way, that is a professional approach in my view.
And also, it's okay to fire a client. I've actually had to fire a client because if I'm putting in more work than you are, then this is not going to work. That's why whenever I start talking to anybody, I'm like, I just put out a post today and I'm like, you can hire me, but is it hard? Is it hard? Yeah. Is it worth it? Yeah. But you got to put in the work. If you're going to change, you got to put in the effort. And I can't be working harder than you on changing you.
Yeah, the definition of being coachable, not making excuses.
Yep. So now, what kind of clients do you work with, and what are some of the things that you specialize in?
So there's two avenues I work in. One that I'm currently, I guess, advertising out there in the socials is my background is a professional executive assistant. So now I work with the high performing leaders, or I'll just call them and put them in the category of corporates who have an assistant, and for whatever reason they want to take it to the next level. Now, there can be a multitude of reasons why, but that's one sphere I love supporting, taking my past skills and combining them with my current skills, because I have a team supporting me. So I've literally bridged both views of being an executive assistant and being an executive. So that's one field. And that is about that relationship, that rapport, and really building the trust and understanding how to read one another on that deeper level for performance. The other passion, which is my bigger passion, and that is working with empathpreneurs. So my definition of an empathpreneur is somebody who is self-declared as an empath in the space, as a leader, a thought a thought leader, a speaker, who are some sort of in the public eye, and or have a business, who maybe have a team, or leaders who have an empath that is maybe they don't understand them well enough. Sometimes I come in and help that kind of conflict between feeling that they've got a highly sensitive person that is too sensitive in their view. So coming in and helping them educate and understand where the highly sensitive person's coming from, what they are, and how to work with it, and supporting that HSP to better manage their sensitivities. So there's kind of a couple of reasons. I'm like the crisis management for empaths. It depends on the dynamics.
All right. So, what is your definition of what an empath actually is?
Really simply, somebody who has radars or receptors, or kind of like antennas that receive signals that maybe 1 in 3 people, only the other 2 out of 3 don't receive. So empaths are people who receive signals that most often don't understand, and it's understanding what those signals are giving us, because it's a gift, it's an intuitive gift, and an empath is just sensitive, and it's understanding what that high sensitivity is and how to work with it. Because it's all very well knowing you're an empath. So what? How do you leverage that? How do you turn it into a superpower, to borrow your word?
Okay. So, what is the difference between empathy and sympathy?
Ooh, okay. So I love this. Um, I'm going to actually switch your question, if I may. What's the difference between doing empathy and being an empath?
Okay.
So sympathy is similar to empathy. It's a choice. So Brene Brown, love her. She talks about being more empathetic, which is a choice of how you approach scenarios, situations, people, dynamics. That is a conscious, critical decision shift in how you operate. Being an empath, now, I'm not comparing it to being on the spectrum. It's like being on a spectrum. We have different levels of sensitivity, and we can have up to 9. There are up to 9 types of empathy receptors. We can have 2 or 3 of them activated. And so, how do we manage all of these signals that are coming in, which I didn't understand for the first 42 years of my life? I didn't know I was an empath until I was 42 years old. So then when I discovered that and dove into that kind of Alice in Wonderland's hole of exploration, then I realized there's a whole population that don't realize, or do but don't know how to work with and leverage their empathic traits. So does that answer your question about the difference?
Yep. Now, in the corporate world, it seems now, and probably in the last maybe 4 or 5 years, they're talking about empathy more. They're talking about soft skills more. Where the CEOs used to be hard chargers, get this done, do it now, blah blah blah. But now, when you talk to HR people, it's more okay. We need to be more empathetic. We need to have more soft skills. So, why do you think the change has been over the last 5 to 10 years?
I think Brene Brown was a big part of that, talking about vulnerability. And I think they're catching on. There's lots of research now that is showing that if you treat your employees less like robots and more like human beings, actually the productivity still comes. So I think it's because they're working out. It's in their bottom line best interest to shift how they're treating employees, how they're asking us to interact and engage, not just with the bosses, but with each other, and recognizing that actually, if you treat us with grace and compassion, we will honor and respect our employees better, employers better, and feel a better employee as a result. That's going to increase productivity, engagement, inclusion, how we interact, and ultimately our commitment to whatever the performance measures are that company's striving for.
And I totally agree 100%. Now, like when I was in the military, my guys know I cared about you as a person. I cared about who you are. I cared about your wife, your kids. I cared about the whole person. Where they would say, if Kaufman tells me to do something, I'm going to run through a wall for him, no questions asked, because I know that he cares about me. And I think it was Zig Ziglar said, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And
And I
even Gary Vaynerchuk, I think one of his things was saying the best marketing you can ever do is to care. So talk about caring.
I think, sorry, I'm like chomping at the bit to respond to this one. The reason why we go into battle for others is because we feel valued. And feeling value comes from rapport, and rapport comes from building that trust through care. So I think it's a big cycle of necessity that employers, corporates are working out is in their best interest. And it just makes everything a whole lot nicer.
But now, so now, if somebody hires you, tells you, Mel, I want you to come in. I want you to talk to our company. We have a high turnover rate. We like to find out a little bit more about this whole empath thing. What are some of the things you do? Can empathy be taught?
So empathy is a choice. So yes, that is a skill that can be adopted. There are people who specialize in how you bring empathy into the workplace. If I were hired in, it's more of that personal acknowledgement. There's lots of assessments around your personality type and what's your dominant leadership traits and all of those sorts of things. I actually have quizzes and assessments to understand what kind of empath you are, which of your receptors are activated, and to what degree. And so if you understand that you are firstly a highly sensitive person, that can help them feel understood, perhaps for the first time. But then also, well, what do I do with this knowledge? It's all very well saying I've got this label. Whether you like labels or not, I now understand something I didn't before. What can I do differently? What can I change? What can I implement? How can I protect myself better? What boundaries can I establish or break down? What changes can I do to work with this new understanding? That's what I would do when I come in and work with, whether it's a small team, like a leadership team, is understanding who on the team has these different traits, where's the conflict coming from and misunderstanding, and then build from there.
So now let me even ask you even a more important question is how can we employ empathy at home?
Oh,
Because a lot of us, husbands, wives, parents, got to deal with parents, we got kids. So how can we employ empathy at home without feeling like we're going to be get run over?
well, if I may share a couple of hacks, the first thing to understand is if you are an empath, again, this is not doing empathy. This is if you are an empath who is highly sensitive for whatever reasons. I'm an animal empath. So anything that comes across me with animals, I'm instantly sucked in. So how do I protect myself is the first thing we need to learn. Going, okay, I have to come up with strategies of how I look at any suffering of an animal. If I was to come across an animal that had been knocked down on the way into my workplace, how would I not bring that disruption of my energy and my psyche into the workplace so I'm not impacted and affected at work? That's a skill that would need to be taught. The second thing is, if I am, how do I manage it in the moment of coming across, for example, an injured animal? How can I react and have compassion for the suffering that I am experiencing or witnessing? And then how do I purge or cleanse afterwards to break away so I'm not carrying it around, weighing me down in a traumatic way for days or weeks afterwards? So it's the kind of, how do you take that three-prong approach of dealing within the moment and or boundaries, and then how do you purge and protect? So it's that holistic, all of it. It's like empowerment coaches love you, but if you don't know what to do with the empowerment, you failed your clients. If I'm empowered, woohoo! What are you going to do next? It's half the question answered if they are not now motivated, internally driven, inspired to do something with that shift in how they're seeing the world.
I agree with you. It's kind of like, I always talk to people that, okay, you've lost the weight. Now you have to maintain, or get better. You can't just because you've hit your goal doesn't mean the goal has ended. There's something else, and I'm there to say, okay, now what? Okay, now we got you to where you need to be. Now where do we continue? How do we get you even better? And I think that's something a good coach does. The good coach doesn't just win a Super Bowl and say, all right, we're done. We won the Super Bowl. We're done. And I think that's what makes a great coach, is somebody that's going to be there for you in the wins and also in the losses.
I'm going to add to that, yes. And great coaches would be helping the identity shift from that transformation. So as you say, great, okay, you're now where you want to be. You've gone from A to B, but is your subconscious, your worth, your belief, your self-esteem, is everything actually aligned with this new you? Because if it's not, you're actually gonna, to some degree, go backwards. Maybe not fully, but if you are not fully integrated with this adjusted identity, you're not taking the full opportunity fully.
And I also believe that high achievers, they like to be coached. Like Tom Brady wanted to be coached up. Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant. These people, they want to be coached up. And I think coaches, great coaches, have coaches. Like, I have a financial coach, I have a physical coach, I have a spiritual coach. So I think that coaches love to be coached, right?
Yeah, I've got my business coach at the moment, and I love sharing. I've got this block, I've got this business mindset that I know is there. I'm here to be coached, and it's so easy, because then I can say, okay, I know where the block is. They'll help me. They'll ask the question. I'm like, oh, okay, I know what the problem is, the answer to your question. I also know what the answer is to the problem that I'm good coaches should be easy to be coached. Doesn't mean we don't need them. We still need that mirror held up for us. And accountability sometimes. Just help me make sure I follow through on the ambition that I'm striving for. And that's sometimes worth its weight in gold.
I love it. Now, this is a teaching podcast. So if somebody's getting out of the military today and they're starting a business and they want to start off on the right foot, what would be your top 3 pieces of advice for somebody that's starting a business in 2025, but they want to start their company with a winning culture, with a great culture, with empathy? What would be your top 3 pieces of advice?
I think the first one would be just start without perfection. I've the word that most of us who've been around for a while has experienced at some point is the pivot. And you don't know that you need to pivot until you've started. And so I've pivoted a couple of times. I started as a dating coach. Now I specialize in this thing called empathy. But if I hadn't started as the dating coach, I wouldn't have gone through the relationship coaching and then this personal success coaching to uncover the empathy piece that now, oh, that's what I'm here on earth to do. That's my specialty. That's my juicy niche. So the first thing is just get started. And that leads to the second one would be niche down. I know there are people who go, I've heard so many niche, not niche along the years. I think when you become an expert at something, that's how you can be referred. I would not go to a GP to get my chemo treatments. I want a specialist in their field who knows that thing so well that I can trust that they're going to understand the problem so well to help me get the best result. So I believe niching is very critical, but you may have to go through a couple of adjustments to work out what that is. So that's my second. And my third is leave ego at the door. We don't know anything. Don't try and be the guru. Don't try and be the one who big notes yourself or downplays other people. Stay humble, have grace, and admit if something doesn't go wrong. Let those clients go, do refunds, be humble, because as you mentioned, that's what people will remember. How the flavor, the feeling that you leave, even if you can't help someone or you don't want to work with them, help them anyway. Leave a good flavor in their mouth. And your reputation is the number one thing you need to protect. So that's 4.
I love it, and I love what you said about the niches. I love what Alex and Layla Hormozy talk about. The riches are in the niches, so make sure that you niche down until it hurts. Like my mentor John Lee Dumas told me, sometimes you got to go an inch wide, but got to go a mile deep to
Yep.
find out your niches. So I love that. So what's going on in the world, in your world now? What are you up to, and how can we get into your ecosystem?
Okay, well, I am part of the Global Speakers Federation through the Australian network, which is Professional Speakers of Australia. In America, that is the National Speakers Association, NSA. So I'm part of that world. I'm the state president here in Queensland, over in sunny Northern Australia. So I'm always looking to spread my message. I'm an educator rather than a motivational keynote, although most people say that they feel inspired or motivated afterwards, but that's not my objective. I want to educate. I personally believe I'm here on earth to be a bridge, to help people get complex confusion broken down in easy ways to feel, oh, I get it. I can understand. I can implement that. I can make that shift. So that comes from me through education. So PSA over here, I will be traveling probably in America next year. On the socials through the Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn channels. And my website where everything's linked is mellb.com, because my surname, Balment, is just too hard because I got 2 L's in my first name. So it's just too confusing. So mellb.com is my website. And you can get anything there, including resources to get those quizzes I was talking about, free resources everywhere. So love serving in that way.
I love it. And I want to give a big shout out to Joseph. Thank you for putting us together. I want to give a big shout out. I should have said it earlier. I forgot. But Joseph, thank you so much. I'm so
My
grateful and
agent.
humble.
Thank you, Joseph.
Yep. Wanted to give a big shout out. I want to shout out Celsius Energy Drink. Thank you for keeping me energized. And Mel, I just want to say thank you for coming on. I'm so grateful. And I love everything we talked about. I think we're going to touch some people today. So I just wanted to say thank you.
I love it. Thank you. And so you know, it's 1:45 here, so I'm still pretty energized. Thank you for the conversation.
Thank you so much. And guys, as you know, every day before I hang up, I always say, every morning we wake up, we have a choice. You can be a victim or you can be a victor. And if you listen to this show, you're no longer victims of your past, you're victors of your present and your future. So thank you so much for always showing up. I love you guys. I appreciate you. And remember, vertical momentum, the only way to go is up. I love you guys. And remember, if you listen to my show, you're a winner. You win when you listen to my show. Love you guys. Have a great week. Mel, take care. Take care of yourself.
Thank you. Bye, guys.